Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how you can quickly and easily find any of the notes in the grand staff using the pointer note system. It is so much more effective than every good boy does find. You'll be finding all of the notes in the grand staff before you know it. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Once again, what we're not going to do, even though it's still very popular, is every good boy does fine. And I'd like to explain why. Most people know the drill, how this works. Every good boy does fine. The spaces spell face. In the bass clef, we have something like good boys do fine always. And the spaces are all cows eat grass. Now the reason why this doesn't work as well, just looking at it sketched out here, it's very confusing. You have 4 different sayings you have to remember on 2 staves. You have to try not to mix them up. And even if you do have this memorized, nothing about this tells you which octave of the piano to actually play these notes in. This approach is going to clear all of that up. So I'm just going to erase this, and we're going to use the pointer note system. So the way this works is we're going to, instead of memorizing 4 different sayings or trying to memorize every single line and space in both clefs, we're going to just memorize 4 notes. We're going to start with 2 C's. So this is treble C in the treble clef and bass C in the bass clef. What helps you remember these is that they're symmetrical. In the treble clef, 1, 2, 3 spaces up. In the bass clef, 1, 2, 3 spaces down. And this is the C above middle C and the C below middle C. Next pointer note is going to be treble G, so that's G that's on the second line. And what helps you remember this is the treble clef. The other name for treble clef is the G clef. If you have trouble remembering that, you can just think that the treble clef looks kind of like a very fancy G. And the line that goes through the squiggly of the G clef is going to be your G line. And that is going to be the G right above middle C. Similarly, down in the bass clef, this is going to be your bass F, second line down. And similarly, you can use the clef to help you remember that. The other name for bass clef is F clef. Now this doesn't exactly look like an F, but if you can remember that this is the F clef, you can know that this line that goes between the 2 dots is your F line. And that's going to be the F below middle C. Kind of a clever trick you can use with this. If you think of middle C as sort of being here, I'm just going to draw one but for the both clefs. If you turn the entire staff on its side, it actually lines up nicely with the way the notes are laid out on the keyboard. We have bass C, bass F, middle C, treble G, and treble C. Now, let's say you have a note that you're trying to figure out that's not a landmark note. What you can do is, assuming that you have these 4 memorized really, really well, you can just use your landmarks as guides to find any mystery notes you're trying to figure out. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Let's say we have this note, which is not one of our landmarks, but you know that the closest landmark was this treble C. You can measure up from that treble C and just go up 1. And then you know this mystery note here is going to be D. Let's try one in the bass clef. Let's say you have this note down here, mystery note. Once again, if you have this landmark really burned into your memory, you know that's bass C, you can tell that this is a skip down, or if you'd want to count the steps, 1, 2, you can figure out pretty quickly that that's going to be A. Now, when you're actually reading music, like keeping a beat, all that stuff, we're not going to be using this system ongoing, but we're going to be reading the music in intervals. And this isn't a cheat way of figuring it out. It's just simply that music usually moves too fast that we really can't think about letters as we go. It's important that we know them, but we're not really actively using them as we play. Rather, we're going to use intervals. So for example, let's say we have a string of notes that looks something like this. Now what we're probably not going to do is play and think to ourselves G, A, B, C, B, A, G, F, E. Even just saying that out loud seems a little confusing, but you'll play your G and think step up, step up, step up, step down, step down, step down, step down, step down. Treble G, step up, step up, step up, step down, step down, step down, step down, step down. Now steps are pretty easy to see, but as you keep working with this approach to reading, you'll expand your interval vocabulary. Skips are fairly straightforward, that's just line to line to line. So let's say you're still sort of fresh to treble reading and you're not sure what this is, but you do know what this is. Treble G, skip down, there's your E, and then skip up, skip up, skip up. And as you read more and more, the hope is that you'll be able to read even larger intervals like this, which is a sixth, and be able to read that just as easily as a second. But to wrap up, if you can just get started with these 4 landmarks using the tricks that we talked about, so your 2 C's, symmetrical, treble G, using the G clef, and bass F using the F clef, you will be well on your way to being incredibly fluent reading the notes on the grand staff. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions whatsoever, just drop them in the comments below. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.